I will turn it over to Roy Thompson to introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Phil. Fellow Rotarians, I'm glad that to announce that Dr. Trey Duke is our speaker today. He's the director of schools for the city of Murfreesboro. He has been in that position since 2021. Anybody who rises to a position like that, you can imagine he's been involved in education for many, many years. I won't read the resume. I know we're running a little short on time. I just tell this story. When my kids entered school early in their schooling, they came home one day and told Margaret and I, "You need to go and tell my teacher such and such and such and such." And Margaret and I looked at each other and said, "Your teacher's the boss, period." That one, they went on upset we didn't get it as an intermediate for them. And I walked back into the bedroom with Margaret and I said, "Do our kids not realize that they're like in the state pen for the next 12 years? Dr. Trey Duke.
We like to think it's a little more than the state pen, but I do appreciate the parental support you provided back then. And if you want to give advice on that, that'd be much appreciated. So thank you for letting me come out and speak to you guys today about just an update about what's going on in the city schools. We are incredibly proud of the work that's happening in Murfreesboro City, and we are thrilled to share it with whoever wants to listen to it because of what really our focus has been. As he said, I took the position in March of 2021. So I just finished up my second complete full year, just started my third full year in this position, taking over after the late Dr. Linda Gilbert, who left quite a legacy in the school system, if you know. And so we really have been trying to build on what she did, as well as take us to a new direction. I always want to start out just to kind of orient everybody on who we are in Murfreesboro City. We do have two great school systems in our community, which isn't really that uncommon, right? In Williamson County, they have Franklin City Schools. In Coffee County, they have Manchester and Tullahoma. In Wilson County, they have Lebanon. So for us to have two great high-performing school districts here in our community is something we're really proud of. We have 13 schools currently stretched across 15 campuses. We are proud to say we have just opened up our latest pre-K building on the west side of town, a building dedicated just to our pre-K students to help free up space in our classrooms in the other schools. So we have 15 campuses now. We're sitting at about a little over 9,000 students. When you think about school systems, 9,000 is kind of hard to kind of quantify, especially when you're in the middle of what we call the giants with Metro Nashville and Rutherford and Williamson and Wilson around us. But to put that in perspective, our pre-K through sixth grade school district of 9,300 students is the 21st largest district in the state of Tennessee out of 145 school districts. So even though we are small compared to our neighbors, we are large compared to the state. We always like to say we're small enough to move quickly, but large enough to be noticed. We have almost 800 certified teachers, principals, assistant principals that work for us, and almost 2,000 total employees that work every day to make sure the job gets done. And I'd be remiss to say, if anybody knows a bus driver, we could definitely use some more of those. So bus drivers are in short supply. So if you're interested in that, please let me know. But we're really proud as we continue to spread across the city of Murfreesboro. Not only are we big, we're also really diverse. We're diverse in terms of our school size. Our smallest school is about 349 students. And right now, our largest school, which is this year Overall Creek, has well over 1,000 students in that building, which is incredibly large for an elementary size school. But that's part of having a large and growing school system. In fact, on the west side of town, where Scales, Overall, and Salem, all of those schools are pushing 1,000 students and growing every day. Demographics, you can see we're very demographically diverse. About 45% of our population are white. And I always point that out just to make sure our citizens know that the majority of the students we serve in our school district are minority students. And we are always working as a school district to say, how do we make sure we're meeting the needs of our growing diverse population that we have here in Murfreesboro? Economically, we're also diverse. About a third of our students, 1 out of every 3, qualify for some type of government assistance. So whether that's food stamps, whether that's TANF, whether it's housing assistance. So 1 out of every 3 of our students in our city, which may be a little staggering when you think about that, with over half of them actually qualifying for free and reduced lunch. To put that in perspective, when you compare Murfreesboro City to Rutherford County school system as a whole, we're sitting about 33% of our students are economically disadvantaged and on government assistance. In the county system, it's about half of that. They're about 16%. So you can say we're much more diverse and much more economically diverse here in the heart of the city. And of course, one of our fastest growing population is our English language learners. Currently, about 11% of our students are considered English language learners, which this is really surprising. 19%, so a little less than 1 out of every 5 students in our district has a home language other than English, right? And again, I think sometimes we don't always realize that when we think about the city we live in, how incredibly diverse that it is. But we're really proud of what we do. And our mission in Murfreesboro City is simple. It's to assure or guarantee that our students are both academically successful and personally successful. And we take that really to heart, and we say it's a huge responsibility for us. I say at the end of the day, I tell my principals and I tell teachers, we love teachers, we love principals, but the taxpayers of Murfreesboro and Rutherford County do not pay taxes so you have a job. Right? They pay taxes so that the students who walk our schools are better off and have the best education possible. So again, our job every day is to make sure our students are both academically and personally successful. And we always use this graphic. If you ever hear me talk about the school system, I can promise you see this. I joke that the teachers in my district roll their eyes when they see it. And I think that's a good thing because it means I'm showing it enough. But at the heart of our work is our students. And that's what the center of that graphic is. And we know that everything in our district rotates around how do we do what's best for our kids. And right outside of that, in that little white circle, it says principals, teachers, and school support staff. And we know the only way we get better as a district is when we improve what happens between a teacher and their kids. And when we do better at that, our school system gets better. And that's what we're about, is taking care of what we call the core of our work, which is our kids. But we're really excited. We're about a year now into our 5-year strategic plan that we launched officially last year. It's called Empowering MCS, and we have laid out 4 big goals that we want to make sure we try and accomplish with a lot of indicators underneath that over the next 5 years. And we've been working hard to accomplish those initiatives that we're looking for. So we've divided up our strategic plan into 4 categories. The first one is what we're calling the known category, which really goes back to that personal success, that every child is known through those whole child supports. So everything students need to be successful that's not academic in nature, we want to make sure we're doing, whether it's after school clubs and activities, whether it's social emotional supports, behavioral supports, food supports. Here's a number that might stagger you. Last June and July, just during the summer months, our school nutrition team fed 52,000 meals out during June and July when school wasn't even in session. So that's what we're talking about with that known indicator, that we're taking care of our students personally. Safe, obviously, school safety is a huge focus, not just for us, but across the country. So making sure that our buildings are safe, our students are safe, and not just safe structurally when it comes to the building security, but safe financially. So we have a good fiscal budget, safe in terms of long-term planning that we know we can continue to support our needs. Challenge, we want every student challenged from a highly effective employee. That means we have the best teachers in the state, and I am super proud of the teachers that we have. And since my time in the last 2.5 years, we've had 1 teacher be the Tennessee recipient of the Milken National Educator Award, which is one of the highest honors you can get in education. She was the only one in Tennessee to receive it for that year. We had a teacher, the only Tennessee teacher, for the Presidential Award of Excellence in Teaching Science in Murfreesboro City. We had the Middle Tennessee Teacher of the Year, which means she was in the top 3 for the state. And this year, Don Barch, who was the principal at Overall Creek Elementary School, he is a state finalist for Principal of the Year. So when we say challenged by highly competent and effective employees, we mean that, and the rewards are really backing that up. And finally, that last piece is empowered, and that has to do with our academic data. At the end of the day, are students showing they know more academically than they did the year before? And I'm incredibly proud to say that MCS continues to lead the way. We had a long tradition in this district well before me of being a state leader in certain areas, and our goal is to remain that state leader. So today, what I thought the best thing to do would just summarize for you 3 ways that our district is leading the state and how other districts are looking to us in these areas. The first way that we're leading the state is in STEM designations. For those that don't know, STEM is an acronym for science, technology, engineering, and math. And it's about giving students opportunities to engage early and often in the engineering process to get them really involved in science and technology. And it's really about job development. It's really about making sure that the workforce has students ready for the jobs of tomorrow. This is done a lot at the high school level. Obviously, in Murfreesboro City, we don't have high schools, but we take it seriously here to make sure our students, as young as kindergarten, are getting these opportunities to engineer, to work, to code, to do robots, and to design projects. I'm proud to say that as of last year, 9 of our 13 schools have received the Tennessee STEM designation from the Tennessee STEM Innovation Network. It's the highest honor you can get in the state of Tennessee for STEM. Not only do we have 9 of our 13 schools that have that designation, we have we have the highest percentage of STEM designated schools of any district in the state of Tennessee. And we're incredibly proud of that. And our goal in our 5-year plan is that by 2027, all 13 of our schools have that designation. And we're the first district in the state to have the complete district STEM certified. Another way that we're leading the way is around that personal side. What we know coming out of COVID is we're seeing behaviors we've never seen before, and we're seeing social and emotional needs we've never seen before. So we've made a huge commitment to making sure that if we want our students to learn, we've got to make sure that we're taking care of those social, emotional, and those mental health needs. So we set out in our 5-year plan that our goal was by 2027, every school would have a full-time mental health counselor in that building 5 days a week. That's not a school counselor. That's someone who's doing small groups, one-on-one counseling, working with students who are dealing with depression, working with students who may have lost a family member, working with students who are having a hard time regulating because of external things going on in their life. Last year, when we started the year, we had 2 mental health counselors in our district for our 13 schools. By the end of the year, through some really aggressive grant writing, we had that number up to 5. And now through our partnerships with Centerstone, Volunteer Behavior Health, and STARS, I'm thrilled to say a full 3 years ahead of schedule, 12 of our 13 schools are going to have a mental health counselor in our building 5 days a week this year, which we're incredibly proud of. So we're putting a lot of resources behind making sure that our students have that work and ready to go. I see Megan back there with United Way. They have been a huge partner with us in that through some of that their grants, and helping us make this a reality, which we're really, really excited about. So we're leading the way in science and technology and preparing our kids for the jobs of tomorrow. We're leading the way in mental health supports and making sure we're meeting the personal needs of our students. And finally, the last way we're leading the way has really been a passion of mine since I came here to the district, which is raising literacy rates. I've been known to say to my teachers, sometimes to get some pushback, but I feel like if we do nothing else as a school system, we must teach kids how to read. That's the bottom line. If we are not producing literate students, then there really doesn't matter what else we are doing. We owe it to students to make sure they have the gift of reading. And we know right now it's really the equity issue of our time are those that can and can't access text at the elementary grades, so they're prepared for college and whatever their path is afterwards. So we've had a huge focus on literacy the past 3 years since I've come on board, and we've really gained some traction, seen some good results, and again, had quite a bit of spotlight put on the district. First of all, last year in the fall, there's a national organization called the Knowledge Matters campaigns, and their motto is to find the good and praise it. And they did a national tour and of school systems that were making growth in literacy and had a focus on embracing the literacy rates of students. And I'm proud to say that Murfreesboro City was one of only 3 districts in the state of Tennessee that they came and spent 2 days with, interviewing our students, interviewing our teachers, watching our processes of how we were working in literacy there. That led, because of that visit, to this magazine article being written in the 74, which is a national education online magazine. And I love the title of this article, right? Students in this Tennessee district are more literacy proficient post-pandemic. And to know that that's our district and that's our city, that's something that we're incredibly proud of, to know that we're getting the national spotlight for what we're doing on literacy. Literacy is really an interesting thing to look at. If you look at states across the country, even the highest performing states, usually people point to Massachusetts for that. They have a really hard time getting above a 50-55% proficiency rate. And so to see us gaining on that is something that we're really proud of. Not only did we have that organization come, in February, Tennessee hosted the Council of Chief State School Officers, which are commissioners of education from every state across the country. And we had about 18 states that were here having their national conference in Nashville. And they told the State Department of Education, we want to go to a school system and see some schools that are doing some good work in literacy. And the State Department said, you need to go to Murfreesboro City. So we had about 40 total people representing 18 states walking Black Fox and Hobgood for 2 days in February to see what we were doing around literacy. And then we ended the year last April with having a couple fellows from Future Ed, which is an educational think tank out of Georgetown University, come and spend some time at Black Fox as well to see this work we're doing around literacy. So we really know that what we're doing is working for kids. We're paying off as we move forward. And it's showing up in our data as well. As we look at the percentage of proficient students, specifically in literacy, we've had an 8.5% increase over 2 years, which is really astronomical, which equates in terms of educational growth, which accounts for about almost 350 more proficient students in literacy than there were 2 years before that. And we're seeing equal growth in math, which our 2-year trajectory in math shows a 7.5% increase in our scores. So not only are we doing the work, we're seeing it show up in real student data over a period of time, and we know that that's going to continue. So we're very excited that we do lead the way, and our focus is to continue to lead the way. We want to lead the way in STEM and continue to do that. We want to lead the way in taking care of our kids personally and emotionally. And finally, when it comes to academic gains, we want to lead the way there too. And we think it's incredibly important that we do that. Why? I tell my people all the time, because we know the students sitting in our school system right now are going to be our future city council members, our future city leaders, and our future business leaders. We are shaping the future of Murfreesboro right now. And again, we take that responsibility very seriously. We know that when we invest in public education, that's open to everyone. We invest in our future. And finally, a big push for me is that I believe that when you have strong traditional public schools, it benefits everyone in the community, even if you don't have students in our schools. You are better off when you have a strong school system, and therefore strong traditional public schools have to be a focus area for all of us. At the end of the day, this is what we say in Murfreesboro City. We want excellent learning for every student, regardless of their socioeconomic background, regardless of their racial background. Every student deserves excellent learning. We know the only way we get that is when we have excellent teaching in every classroom. So we have to support our teachers, take care of our teachers, make sure they're well trained. We only have excellent teachers when we have excellent principals who act as instructional leaders who can get in there and work with our teachers. And we only have excellent principals if we have a central office system that's wired to the core to help make sure our schools and principals are successful. And when we have those pieces in place, at the end of the day, our kids are going to learn, and that's what we're here for, and that's what we want. So I want to thank you for letting me give you a brief update on where we are in Murfreesboro City Schools. We're really proud of the work we've done. We're on day 7, so it's been a great start, 7 days in. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Yes, sir.
I teach students in the technology area, and I get from them, it's pretty math centric, and I get from them, I don't do math.
Mm-hmm.
And is it possible that you can maybe shed a little light on that from, because I'm assuming everybody is wired to be able to do math.
Yeah.
So it must, I can't figure out where that started.
You-
Kind of,
Well, I'll tell you, it's interesting. I say math is the one thing that we're okay saying that about. Like we would never be okay for a person to say, oh, I don't do reading. No, right? No, we all have to do it. But for some reason, we give ourselves a pass that it's okay if we're not good at math. So I can just tell you what we do in our district, which is our focus is specifically in math is to make sure we're basing everything in that concrete first, and we're building those skills, and that just like everyone is a reader, everyone is a mathematician. I know if you're going to graduate from high school, you better have a really strong Algebra 1, right? Algebra 1 success is really indicative of high school graduation. Guess what Algebra 1 success is indicative of? How they did in 3rd and 4th grade on fractions. So again, we can't wait till they're in high school to get them ready. We got to address it in K-3. And yeah, it's definitely a mindset we have to shift, because we know that's why we focus on that STEM area, because we've got to make sure when you look at the jobs of tomorrow, it's got to be jobs of students that can problem solve, that have that ability to go in and analyze issues and have that mathematical mindset too.
Yeah.
All the principals report to you, or is there somebody between you?
Well, like it or not, they all report to me. So no, I'm very lucky. I have 14 amazing school leaders. And if you want to have a great school, you got to have a great principal. They go hand in hand. And I would say you're very seldomly going to find a great school that doesn't have a great principal, or you're not going to find a great principal in a school that's not great. So they do all report to me. And my job is to work with them and oversee them and make sure that every school is getting the same high standard of quality that anyone would want for their own students. I say all the time, our children, I have 2 boys that are in the public school system. They're a little older, so they're both at Rockville High and Rockville Middle now. Great schools, great things happening there. But I always think about them. What do I want for them to have? That's what we got to provide for every student in our city.
So I think my granddaughter's in Central. I think it's considered one of the top of the state.
Oh yeah. Central, we have a lot. We have 3 amazing magnet programs in this community, and really 4 if you go all the way to Smyrna. But we have Central, we have the Discovery School, and we have McFadden. 3 excellent in our city opportunities for high achieving students.
My son just graduated from McFadden and now going to Central.
It's a great place. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
You expect to grow, let's say in the next 5 years with the way that this price.
Yeah, man, listen, it's a lot. So I will tell you, we've tried to be really strategic on how we look at it. To go back, I'll go back to COVID. It's been a little bit of a curveball as we're still kind of recuperating from COVID. So our annual growth is about 2.5% a year. Annually is what we grow in our school system. I will tell you, the year before last, we grew 5%. And last year was a little less than that 2.5% average. So this year we're kind of back on that rebound, and we're expecting to grow somewhere between 2 and 3% this school year. And our numbers are trending that way. Again, 7 days into school, we still have kids registering every day. But again, our history, and I go back and look the last 30 years, on average, it's been about 2.5%, 2.6% a year. Yes, ma'am.
Now about the 3rd grade issue with the kids.
Sure.
How is Murfreesboro handling? Do you have a lot of 3rd graders this year?
Sure. Less than the state. If you don't know, the state legislature passed a law last year that said you could not be promoted to 4th grade unless you were proficient on the 3rd grade TCAP or end of year assessment that the state gives. So we looked at that. I can say, if they weren't proficient, there were several options parents had at play, whether it was summer school or going through tutoring this year. I am thrilled to say that because of the hard work of our team at central office and our principals, we have 1,500 3rd graders total in our district. We have less than 1% of those that are being retained. It's right around 7 students. And of those 7, there's about 4 of them whose parents selected retention. They wanted their child to be retained. And then there are a couple of those who just said, we're moving, we're going to go to a private school. So, but they're still in our numbers. But every parent who wanted their child to be promoted, we were able to identify a promotion pathway for that child. Yes, sir.
Trey, I grew up in Baxter Hopkins City Schools. So
Great school.
it was a different demographic in those days. The parents of the city schools were by and large a lot more involved, and the
Mhm.
achievement was a lot higher with city kids than the county. Now that that's reverted, how do you all, as you prepare to reach these kids, how do you pivot? What do you do differently?
So it has changed, right? When you think about, my wife went to Mitchell Nelson Elementary School and grew up there. A lot of people went through Mitchell Nelson, Reeves Rogers, Baxter Hobgood, looking at that. And that's really now the core inner city. So the demographics have drastically changed. So we've really had to make sure we've adapted to know who our students are. And that's the first thing. Who are the students in this building? And when you know who students are, then you can start having conversations about how to meet the needs. But we are really diverse. You look at Mitchell Nelson, which currently has the highest percentage of homeless students of any school in our district. There's something I think 21 hotels throughout our city that are zoned to Mitchell Nelson. So families living in hotels are not in full-time housing. Compare that to Overall Creek, which is really serving a very affluent part of Murfreesboro. So we are incredibly diverse. We actually try and use it as a recruitment tool, right? And we say, if you want to work in a small school, we have it. If you want to work in a large school, we have it. If you want to work in a school that really targets at-risk populations, we have that. If you want to work more in a suburban school that you want to send your kids to as you work, we can get you there. So we think that there's a lot of strength in our diversity, and we're proud, despite the despite the demographic differences between even ourselves and the county as a whole, we still are very comparable in terms of our achievement and our test scores and our growth, and we're really proud of that. Yes, sir.
We heard the city mayor say that there are going to be some impact fees. Are you going to get some of that money?
That's my understanding. That is there are some impact fees coming. Part of those impact fees will go help to address growth. I will say with impact fees, because I had to look at this really closely because I'm always going to look for money for schools. But with the impact fees, of course, I can only use it to address growth of the schools. I can't use that money to go back and address, I want a new roof at Scales, or I need a new AC at this school. It is only, I can only use that money, the city can, to address true growth in the community. Yes, ma'am.
Not a question, but a statement. Thank you for your passion and your enthusiasm. It's obvious that you love your job and you're creating a culture for people to follow. So thank you.
Well, thank you. It is a great job. I am so blessed. We have an incredibly great school system. I am so proud every day to walk into Murfreesboro City Schools. Again, not just because of the great culture we provide our students, but that we do, as I showed, we have people across the state looking and saying, how can we replicate what's happening there? And that's because we have teachers who are committed to students, principals who are committed to teachers and students, and a supportive community. And at the end of the day, I think we're all better off because of it.
Also add, of serving on the advisory council with under your administration, and as a dean that's prepared half of the teachers there.
That's right.
I would honestly say you're not only committed, you're consistent with it, and you're very passionate about it. So we are in good hands, and they are doing an excellent job.
Thank you for that, Dr. Barr.
Last question. It was in September, reading in the schools.
That's right.
Is that picked back up?
That is September 22nd, Reading in the Schools Day, our partnership with Read to Succeed. So anyone that wants to get into some schools and read to kids, it's a great opportunity to get in front of kids, spend 5 minutes, read a book with them, talk to them about your organization or what you do. And listen, it's really hard to be in a bad mood after reading to a class of 25-year-olds. It just is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Volunteer for that.
If you want to contact Read to Succeed, Jolynn Radnati is over Read to Succeed. She's organizing it. Or if you have a specific school you want to read to, let me know and I can put you in contact with them.
It does not disappoint. It is a ton of fun. Then they'll have the books picked out.
Yeah.
You just go and you'll get 2 or 3 and you go read to them. It also gives you a wonderful opportunity to walk inside one of the city schools. If you're like me, my kids went to city schools and they're long gone out of there. I've got no reason being in a school. If you're like me, it's a great opportunity to set foot inside one, and you'll know that what you see and hear, every other school is just like it. It'll make you very proud. Trey, thank you very
No,
much for
thank
being
you.
here.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. All right, everybody. That wraps up today's show. I'll see you next week when we hear from Shannon Wheeler talking about Charity Chop. Thank y'all.